I'd like to start maybe with an introduction of yourself. Could you introduce yourself to listeners? Could you talk a little bit about yourself? I know that you are a recording artist, a producer, a street dancer. You are involved in so many different things. Can you give listeners a brief introduction of yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. I hate talking about myself, but for you, I got you. My name is Anickan. For anybody that doesn't know, I come with a lot of peace, love, and light. Like you said, I am a recording artist. I'm a cinematographer. I was a street dancer for the first greater half of my creative life. And I'm a graphic designer, audio engineer, producer, yes, photographer, a little bit of everything. Lover, you know. Yeah, man, that's me.
Beautiful.
From Arizona, and just celebrated my 31st birthday.
Fantastic.
Yes, sir.
Can you talk a little bit about getting into the music industry? You recently made a post on Instagram talking about an individual who really inspired you, who opened some doors for you, connected you with individuals. I think you mentioned Kanye West, Kid Cudi, Lupe Fiasco. Can you talk a little bit about that relationship and how you kind of got into the music industry?
I got into it probably the same way that most all of us did, which is we just had a profound obsession for music and art. It started really, I recorded my voice for the first time when I was, I think, a freshman or sophomore in high school. I used to take just the city bus from one end of the city to another with the guy that I mentioned. His name is Jalen Eddins, aka Bam. He was the first person that I recorded my voice with. He was one of my best friends in the world. He ended up actually moving in with me. He had a rough, at-home situation, so he came and lived with me and my parents and my mom and my sister. And my mom, we were delinquents, we were young, we were dumb, we were savages, and we got in so much trouble. School just never was for me. So my mom was kind of just like, look, what do I need to do to keep you out of trouble? And unfortunately, but fortunately, she got into an accident where I think it was like a cab or something that ran over her foot, and she got like $100,000 settlement or something like that. And she put all of it away. But once she saw that I was like really, struggling in school, she did what most parents wouldn't do, which is she kind of leaned against the curve and decided instead to discipline me, to really try to figure out something that I would enjoy, something to keep my mind busy that would keep me out of trouble. So she took me to Guitar Center and she was like, if music is what's going to keep you out of trouble, that's what I'm willing to do. So she got me a bunch of equipment, a computer, hard drives, microphone, keyboard, literally everything that you could think of that you need for a beginning at-home studio setup. And I didn't know what I was doing, and neither did he. Like, we just went crazy, and we never took a class, but we were, it's sad to say, we were ditching school every day just to stay home and record. I did 300 songs in one summer, and they were all terrible, absolutely terrible. But then I did that 301. I remember my mom came in, we had it all set up in her laundry room, and yeah, she walked in, and on that 301, and she walked in and she was like, you should keep going. And so that was like, she's always been my biggest supporter. As far as me and Jalen go, we did a lot, man. We had like a single deal with Universal. We traveled. We had a song with Akon, and this was all before I was, even 18 years old, and we didn't know what we were doing, but we were in the middle of something that seemed like it was going to be pretty big. And I just think that we weren't ready, and it was a terrible time, and life was happening all around us, and we were growing up. And he had, sorry, it's still kind of tough for me to talk about, but he had, somewhat of a psychotic break. And I think that was my first real experience with dealing with somebody my age that struggled with mental health. My mom was on depression medications for years, And I just never understood anything about it. I thought, this was just some regular thing that people go through. Old people take medicine. Like, it was one of those things when I was a kid that I thought of. But to see somebody go through it that was an equal to me, somebody that was young and my friend, it confused me, and I didn't know how to treat it. And I just wish that I had some sort of a better understanding for it back then. He listened to those three artists. He listened to Kanye West, Lupe Fiasco, and Kid Cudi. And what he used to tell me all the time was that these three artists make him feel like he has purpose. Like, they were saying things in their music. They were being vulnerable. They were expressing these very specific types of emotions that he felt, only he felt, like, and he didn't know who to talk to. He couldn't talk to me about it because I wasn't dealing with it in the same light, and I didn't go through the same things. So once I really started taking that into consideration, I listened to what he was saying. I listened to the music. I went and I did a deep dive, and I wanted to really feel what he felt, and it changed my entire life, man. It rewired my brain into really accepting a piece of music like it wasn't music. It wasn't this tangible energy or this tangible thing anymore. It was this, almost ethereal energy that was all consuming, and it made me feel, it made me feel everything. It made me feel the anger in the music. I not only was listening to the story, but I saw the imagery, and I felt the sonic, the bed of music that was under it that uplifted the emotions or ripped the emotions out of you. Like, everything was just all encompassing, immersive, and it took so long for that to click for me, man. And it sucks that I had to go through a real life situation with him and his mental health, and then I too ended up struggling with my own mental health. I was recreationally on pills for a few years. I had a really terrible relationship. I've had this visceral self-doubt since I was a kid, and the only thing that I ever connected to that made me feel like I was worth anything was music and these other art forms that are all cohesive to each other. So, yeah, man, the other day at my release party, that was the first time I said that story out loud, or even really spoke his name out loud. The only people that know about him are like super, super close to me. So I've been kind of on this binge of like getting over my fears. And I think that was really, really important for me to actually say with the release of this new project. So yeah, man, a lot of my beginnings start from really in-depth, emotional, hyper-emotional spaces of just being a human being. And I think that that's the space that I create from.
I couldn't agree more, and I appreciate you being willing to share that in that post and today, because I understand that those things are really heavy. Absolutely. I'm interested to understand what the journey was like to find these artists. Obviously, there's different genres, there's different sub-genres within a genre, and the three that stand out to you, I can feel it when I'm listening to your recent album, which we'll get into in a few minutes here. You can feel the inspiration that you're taking from them, and it's yours. It's completely unique to you, but you can see the inspiration. Can you talk about how those three artists sort of shaped your understanding? Because it seems to me that you have a different relationship with the beat than other, I would say, more lyricists. And I'm interested to know how you get inspired by these individuals that we've sort of talked about: Lupe Fiasco, Kid Cudi, Kanye West.
I think there's so many ways I could say this. I think the easiest way for me to say it is feeling. I think that each one of these people are relentless feelers. And then it's the fearlessness. I think the bravery in their music and and how they choose to create, the collaborative nature in which they choose to create, the spaces of solitude that they choose to create, and the unequivocal attention to detail in all of that they do. Like everything Cudi does, I can hear the inspiration for, like you just said, for me, it's like, I hear, like, I'm hearing Kurt Cobain, I'm hearing Hendrix, I'm hearing Queen, I'm hearing Kanye, I'm hearing, these 80s hyper pop, inspirations. I'm hearing the Wu-Tang, I'm hearing the neo soul, I'm hearing it's just so much painting of these sounds that they're putting together, where, on paper, somebody could probably look at you and say, you can't do that. That's not possible, or you shouldn't do that. And I think all of them are just fearless about it. You take Lupe Fiasco, who's, he made a choice, and his choice was, I'm going to be this, incredible lyrical miracle, but all of my music is going to be positive, and people damned him for that. And it was like, but you can't damn him that much for it, because you can't out rap him. Like, he's one of the most prolific lyricists of our time. Your favorite rapper probably thinks Lupe's his favorite rapper. It's like, so studying just his bravery, his ideology, of course, the skill form and the art form and the skill set that he puts into the art form, of course. But like, the bigger thing that I take away from these people is really what they stand for, man. Like, and I think that was something that, that's something that a lot of us as artists, we struggle with, is really believing in what we're doing and having a sense of identity. It's so easy to just, let's just look at these, what's hype on TikTok, what's dope on Instagram right now. That's what's playing on the radio, or what's popping right now in the street. Like, we should get on that type of wave, and let's make these type of songs or rap about this shit. And it's like, man, I told one of my best friends, Oswin Benjamin, I told him from the jump, I was just like, man, like, and he's friends with Lupe. Like, I told him from the jump, like, man, I don't give a shit about none of this stuff. The only thing I care about is doing exactly what I want to do. And as long as it feels authentic to me, and I'm creating out of a space of realism, hyper realism, and it's in real time, like, that's the only space I want to create from. And so I think that that's my biggest takeaway when I look at Lupe, Kanye, Cudi, man. Like, you can't tell them anything. They're going to do what they want, when they want, on their own time. And every time they do drop or they do something, even if it's negative, like, it's eventful, and it's something to be talked about. So I think that that's the type of space I want to create from when it comes to my art, for sure.
So you made a song with Vin Jay about, and one comment that I've thought a lot about is he talks about rappers being the new prophets. And I think that that's really interesting, because when we're talking about mental health, when we're talking about healing, when we're talking about coming from tough times and getting out of those circumstances, there really isn't another place you would go to than, for me, going to rappers like yourself, who are able to say, this is where I started from. I worked incredibly hard and now I'm here. That message, you find it in movies, but it's less potent. It's less clear. There's advice that you provide people. There's guidance that you offer people on how to live a peaceful life, how to live a meaningful life, that you don't always, it may be in a story, like a movie that you really like, but it's not clear. And people like yourself make that clear. What are your thoughts on this idea that you are perhaps the new prophets?
Well, no, I mean, I agree. It's, again, like, it goes back to what I was saying about this stuff happening in real time. It's like, we're the ones, we're the Indians that, or we're the natives that are going, over the mountain and letting people know, like, hey, there's all these cowboys over there. You know what I mean? Like, and people are able to see us go do that, and then they can follow that, and we can kind of trial and error everything that we do. It's like, so many people are afraid to even have a voice, and we're being a voice for those people. And because we're able to bridge a gap too, like me and Vin specifically are in a very specific space. It's like, we're not the new generation, but we're also not the old generation. We're like this middle child that understands both sides, and we have the ability to bridge this gap. It's like, I know these young cats that still fuck with some of the shit that we do, and then I know the OGs that we've learned and taken all these traditional things from that worked, and then we've, broke some rules and try to figure out ways to implement them into this new space. And it's like, we have this ability to bridge a gap here. So yeah, I absolutely agree with them. Like, I do think we're definitely profit-like and profit-bound, because all we're doing is we're being brave enough to be a voice and put our emotions, put our stories, put our art out there. And if people can latch onto it, I mean, they're ultimately going to follow suit, and they're going to, lean into that and come with us. And hopefully, maybe it inspires them to do the same. And next thing you know, I may look to the right or look to my left, and those people that used to follow us are now here with us, like we're just doing what we were taught, or what came naturally. The people that inspire us and the people that came here before us, that paved the way for us, they made it so we can do shit like this. Like, I have so many human beings, so many artists that I look up to, that I just completely take everything that they've done, shown, or put into existence, and I just latch onto it, and I just use whatever I can from it, and I just want to implement the same thing. I feel like I think KRS-One said something. He said, hip hop didn't invent anything, but it reinvented everything. And I think that that's the space that we're in as people that are a part of this culture.
I couldn't agree more. And huge shout out to J. Cole for making that song that kind of describes what you're saying.
There you go.
There's a risk involved, though, a risk that's somewhat different. There's a reason that you leave the 9 to 5 to do what you're doing. And I think of Juice WRLD as an excellent example of a person who is describing where he was, which was a very dark place. And then he went over that edge, and there's no coming back. And so there's a certain amount of self-belief and confidence in taking that risk, in sharing your perspective, and going up the mountain and saying, this is what I see. Hopefully it helps. And there's a risk involved in that. And I'm just interested, what has that journey been like? Because you have to bet on yourself. There's moments where you have a lot of doubt and questions. Am I crazy? Was this a crazy step to take? And you have to keep going. And sometimes the places you have to go to share with your audience, to share with others, is a place that's really dangerous to be in. And again, I think Juice is just an example of a person who he went over that edge, and now he's not here. But the music that he gave us on that edge was incredible and really valuable. But we lost him, and there's a consequence, there's a risk involved. And I'm just interested in your thoughts on that.
Man, the human condition is so insane. And I think, Van Gogh cut off his ear. It's like there's just being an artist, you have this gift, incredible gift, and you're burdened with an unbelievable curse. And I feel like we all share it. And it's like, if you're not an artist, anytime we talk about it, it'll sound fucking crazy to you, but all of us get it. It's that edge you talk about, and we're subconsciously walking it all day, just trying to find that new inspiration, trying to feel something, trying to create the next thing that, that can help us get away from that edge. Because that's ultimately what we're searching for, is a way to be relieved from that feeling. And I have so many, it's funny that you said that. I have so many conversations, and I've had so many verses that I've wrote about that, because one of my biggest fears is like, which I feel like I actually accomplished with this album. One of my biggest fears was thinking that I had to keep myself in a very specific mental place to be able to create from, because that was the only time that my art was good. Like, I remember I used to be afraid to not put the pills down, because what I was creating while being on them was so raw and so authentic and so real. And then it's the same thing. It's like I almost need to keep myself in a state of chaos, and I have to be addicted to my sadness to be able to go in on those nights in the studio and pull this shit out of me. And it's not, that's really not true. It's kind of an inexperienced way of dealing with the creation part of it. Sadly, a lot of the greats have lost themselves along the way, and it is very easy to. I think our responsibility for artists, and again, this is why I want to be a catalyst for something like this. Like, I wish there was more resources, and I wish there was more help, fucking health benefits for artists, fucking insurance for artists, little things that just, show that people give a fuck about what we're doing, because entertainers are demanded. We're demanded in this world, but also taken advantage of and taken for granted all day, So for an artist, man, I wish we had more support, because I feel like you have to have this like sort of knowing about your purpose. Like you talked about quitting jobs, or like me, like I haven't worked a regular job since I was 18. Like I knew that I didn't go to college. I knew school wasn't for me. My sense of knowing of being an artist, it just came from choosing it every day. Like I literally just choose it on my worst days, on the days that I don't want to get up, on the days I wanted to give up. Like I still just chose it. And again, like the sense of self-awareness was just like, there's nothing else here in this reality, in this space and time, that sets my fucking soul on fire. Like this is it. So whether I'm broke and I have nothing to show for it, for some reason, my entire body won't let me not do it. That's the sense of knowing. All the other shit, the technical aspects, learning business and learning how to monetize it and being smart and all this other shit, like all those things could be programmed, could be learned with a little bit of outsourced energy. All of that can happen, but it's like, you have to have this first. The obsession, the obscene obsession, to where it's almost a little mad for you to feel this way, but it's like you have to have that madness to reach the magic, And I wish more artists, could really tap in to that without the fear aspect, because I know how hard it is. Like, yo, we all got bills to pay, we all got to fucking make it at the end of the day. We all are influenced by things. We all have, wives or girlfriends or kids and other jobs and so many things that will distract us and pull us away from this. But like, man, like if you just know that this is for you, if you have that switch, keep that motherfucker on, man. Like, cause for real, one of my biggest motivational pieces is that, we really might not be here tomorrow, and a lot of my friends hate when I talk about, a lot of my friends hate when like I talk about death or anything like that, but it's like, it's the one definitive in life is that. And I've had so much, my life has been surrounded by so much death. Like I've lost so many people, and it's just constantly reminding me to like, just do what you want to do and do it right the fuck now. 'Cause this is all you got, man. That's it. And I've spent so much of my time where I felt like I wasted enough already. And I think it's only been recently that I really tapped into this space, and I'm like, man, like I'm going to go, and I'm just going to do everything that I feel I really, really, really want to do.
That's inspirational, and I think important for people to hear, because those steps are incredibly overwhelming. And to your point, I think so many people can feel like it's just them. They're the only ones with these feelings, and it's where artists shed this light. On July 30th, you made a tweet saying, I just want to be an album artist. I love curating these experiences and stories and putting them into song form. You've just released an album. I'm just interested to know what it was like to put together an album. Sometimes maybe people think of just a song, maybe they're interested in the single. They don't understand that the album is somewhat a journey that the artist is taking you on. It isn't about going to the one with the star on it or the one that has the most views. To really understand an artist is to take it from beginning to end, because there's really motivational songs, there's calm songs that are really relaxing. The whole process of putting together an album is a journey. You take the songs and then you organize them in a way that tells a story. What was it like to be able to bring this to life and to be able to think in album mode, perhaps?
Man, it's crazy, because I've just always been somebody that just loved listening to bodies of work. I mean, I grew up, like, my mom had 45s and vinyls, all like stacks and stacks of them in crates. And so I grew up listening to, 10-minute songs. I grew up listening to, album vinyl cuts of George Clinton and Earth, Wind and Fire and Hendrix. And, and these songs are, 8 minutes long or whatever. And they're all just an experience. They're just these musical experiences. And then, as I got older, it was like, your favorite artist would drop an album and then you don't hear from them for like 2 years until the next one comes out. So you wanted to listen to every song because the only other thing that you heard is if they had a single on the radio. But when you listen to the album all the way through, you get a whole plethora of experience. And so I think I have that embedded in me. And what's funny is that although we're still in a single generation right now, and people's attention spans are like this, what's crazy is to see that the people that do still put out these albums, they're not going anywhere. Like these albums are going to live forever. Like look what Kendrick just did with, Mr. Morale. Like I listened to it through all the way like 10 times already. And it's like, I get a different experience every time. And it's not something I just want to go, replay value for the car. It's like, I'm really having an experience here, and they're pushing the genre forward, and you're breaking barriers and breaking boundaries. That's what I love. You take when Kanye did the Donda album, pretty much every Kanye album, to be honest, is an experience. And all of it has been ahead of its time. And the same thing with Cudi. Cudi's last album was a TV show, and he rolled it out on Netflix as a movie, and it's an album. And it completely ties in together. Again, it's more than songs. It's always been more than the music, though. The music is just, the music is just a way to present it. But the stories are what I really love and what I really dive into. So I think for myself, man, like, again, and it's so weird because none of my friends are like that. Like, I think maybe Oswin might be the only one, but like all my friends are just like, man, like I'm doing this single, I got this single, I got this single, I got 150 singles ready to go, and we're just going to roll them out like this. And I'm sitting here like, I sat on singles for months, and I was just like, it felt pointless to put them out because they weren't connecting to something. I felt like they were just little pieces of a puzzle, and I was just going to give them pieces to a puzzle. And I felt like then the puzzle wouldn't make sense if I didn't give them, you know what I mean? So I started working on it. It was actually, I was working for Futuristic. I shoot all of Futuristic's music videos and stuff.
Really?
So I've been shooting all his music videos for the course of like almost 3 years now. So I helped him with that. I was working for him, doing a bunch of stuff for Indie Amplify. And I was working so much on film work that I didn't have time to really work on music. And so he ended up going on a vacation, I believe. And I had like a window of like 3 days. And he just gave me the keys to his, like we have like a workhouse. And he gave me the keys to the workhouse. And there's like 4 studio setups in there. And I called my boy Bingx, and I was like, yo, I have some time to work on music. Like, what are we doing? Like, let's lock in. So he flew out, came to the studio. We got in the studio for like 3 days, and I shit you not, like I did not sleep. So much so that so I did this for 3 days. On the 4th day, I was hospitalized. I got cellulitis. I woke up with a crazy flu. Ended up being cellulitis because my immune system was so low because I was awake for like 65 hours or something like that. And it was all because, like I said, like I didn't have the time to work on the music. So I wanted to get as much done as I could. Within that 3-day session, we probably got the blueprint for like 7 of the songs on the album. And we worked all from scratch. Like me and him curate all the music together, the sounds together. His favorite thing to say to me, and I love it when he does it, he'll come in and he'll say like, what are you feeling? Give me a word that you're feeling. Just one word. And I'll say a word. And he's like, okay, give me a minute. And he like goes to the computer, goes back to the board, gets the keyboard out. And maybe like 30 minutes goes by and he was like, okay, cool, I got something for you. And it could be anything. It could be a lead, could be an 808 loop, could be a drum, could be a sound, could be a sample. And he's just like, I think this is aligned with what you just said that you felt. This feels like that word. And he'll play it for me. And if I like it, he'll be like, okay, cool, get on the microphone. And I'll get on the microphone. And before we do lyrics, before we do arrangement, before we know the concept, we always find the feeling first. So I'll get on there and I'll just scat. I'll just hoot, holler, hum, scream, yell. I'll try different rap cadences. I'll freestyle a little bit, like whatever, just to find what I'm feeling. And then once we find a feeling of it, we'll like pull out of it. We'll listen back. And then if we know that we feel something and if there's something there, then we'll go in and we're like, okay, let's put lyrics to this. Let's put arrangement. Then it's just all texture and stuff like that. So, but we did a lot of that within that 3 days. And then I got hospitalized. I was in the hospital for 9 days after that 3 days. It was insane. And then I got away from it. I went right back to working on more film stuff. I was filming Echo's music videos, Vin Jay's music videos. I was filming Futuristic stuff. I filmed Chris Calico's music videos. I did a documentary for Chris Calico. I was just doing so much stuff. And then I came back again and I was like, here, let's go back in and revisit some of the stuff that we did. And we probably worked together for like a week and a half, maybe. And then we kind of knew. I was like, okay, all of this stuff is starting to sound cohesive. I think that this is becoming more than just some singles that I need, because they all started to sound like they tied together. And then it was like, after that week and a half, like he went back, he started putting some mixes on things and he would send stuff back to me. And we both kind of agreed. We were just like, yo, this is something and we should treat it as something. So originally the album was called Aurora, because I have this this album concept where my first album I did was called Superpower, and it was the dark version, so the dark side of it. So it was called Superpower Dark. And then I was going to do an in-between album called Aurora because I wanted to do a third album called Superpower Light. And I wanted the dark side and the light side to have two musical aesthetics, one being very grungy, very dark, very distorted, another one being more vibrant, ethereal, a little bit more ambient in its nature. And that way I could kind of let people know, like, I don't want to just do any one type of music. I want both of these sounds in my music to, kind of be significant of what I have to create internally. So when I first thought of doing an in-between project, I thought of calling it Aurora because I looked at the definition, and the definition of Aurora was like an electromagnetic phenomenon that happens in the night sky and it poses the first rise of light. And I was like, oh, okay, well, that's dope because obviously there's light, but it's light in the night sky. So I could just do this in-between project. The bigger ideology behind it was that music that I made for Superpower Dark was so dark and it was so painful. And again, it goes back to what we were talking about earlier about how like I just didn't want to keep making this dark music where I felt like I had to feel pain just to create. And so, but then I also was struggling with creating this light-hearted, ethereal, positive music because I just wasn't there. Yeah. I didn't feel that at all. So again, it's the real-time thing that I was telling you about. So when I thought about an in-between project, I was like, oh, Aurora would be kind of perfect. And I could do a little bit of both because I felt like I had this little spiritual tug of war going on anyway. Just put it in the music. The more we kept going with the songs, the more I still liked Aurora, but it didn't. Again, it's something I already said. Like it didn't like set me on fire. Like I didn't feel huge about it. Like I said, I'm a cinematographer as well, and I'm a huge movie buff, ridiculous movie buff. I watch so many movies. Literally in my phone, I have a list of like my top directors. I have my list of my top 10 movies, and I play this little game with myself all the time, and I try to like replace my top 10, and it's so hard to do because those top 10 are like embedded for me. And then I even have like lists, like my friends always come to me for like movie recommendations. So I have like separate notes on my phone of like lists for my friends, and all curated by like who they are as a person. Like it's like, oh, I know they went through this, I went through this, they should watch this type of movie, or they felt this or heard this, they should watch this. So that's just who I am when it comes to that shit. So I watched, I've seen it a million times, but I for some reason I went back and I watched this movie Interstellar, written and directed by Christopher Nolan. Incredible film. Like, have you ever seen it?
Yes, of course.
Yeah. Okay. Incredible film. The fucking mantra of the movie just wouldn't leave me alone. And, it's basically just love transcends space and time. And Anne Hathaway has a piece in there where she's talking and she basically was saying like, love, and you've seen it, like love is an artifact that we can't consciously perceive. And maybe we need to dial it back to a science. Like maybe we just don't know enough about it. And we've been struggling with, broken hearts this entire time because we're trying to tame something that is ultimately wild and not tangible. So, man, like that shit just jogged my mind so much. I started taking notes and I was writing stuff down. And originally for the release party, I was like, damn, like I really wanted to show the movie, after I did the album. Because when I shit you not, if you go back and you watch Interstellar after listening to this music, like you will be able to see the direct references of what I referenced and what moments I took. The sounds of the Endurance spaceship, the sounds of, them being in Gargantua or next to Gargantua in a black hole, the sounds of just everything, some of the dialogue that they say. I really, really wanted to dive in conceptually. So after being so inspired by that movie, I was just like, you know what? These songs sound like love, and this is my story of love, and fuck it, I'm just going to call it Interstellar Love Story. And I thought it was such a great title. And I called my boy Trip, who produced Polygon, which is the love story song on the album. And he's also a huge film buff with me, and he loves the movie Interstellar. And I said, I figured out the name of the album. He was like, what is it? And I said, Interstellar Love Story. And he hung up on me. He hung up on me and he called me back and he said, that's the most perfect thing I've ever, like when you said it, I knew it was it. And I was like, all right, good. So yeah, that's kind of how it all started.
That's such an incredible story. And I think speaks to how everything comes together, right? Like you're not in a silo just alone. You're taking inspiration from things that bring your ideas to life and can have an impact. And now when people listen, they can see those connections. I'm interested to understand sort of the ability to connect things together. Your album cover is fantastic. It's beautiful, and it really speaks to exactly what you're describing. There's a sense of disconnect. I often try and remind people that we are on a rock hurtling through infinite space, and that it's so easy to forget that. And you talk a lot about that in the album. You talk about how, like, the very beginning is all about how, like, we forget we're going to die. We forget that the trivial problem, somebody cutting you off in traffic, is just nonsense when you zoom out and you think about how you get like 84 years on this planet and that's it. And you use that time wisely, and you might not get those 84 years. So take advantage of it fully. And the image, it reminded me, I don't know if you've heard of The Falling Man, but it was in regards to 9/11, and there was a person falling out of one of the Twin Towers and falling alone, and he was just hurtling, and it became a representation of that moment and an understanding of this person would rather fall out of this building than stay in a falling building. And it was really heavy for a lot of people. And it made, I think, the front page of the New York Times. And it was a reflection of that moment. And seeing your image reminded me of that, because we are on our own journey inside ourselves, but we are connected to other people and we can have a positive difference. Can you talk a bit about the album cover?
Yeah, it was actually so weird that you just said that. Like, you kind of just gave me chills right now, because I just got back from New York. I saw the monument for the first time ever. So that was so weird that you just said that. That was crazy. Sorry, I'm really big in, like, we're right where we're supposed to be type shit. So I always like get little signs everywhere. And again, like, that's crazy that you said that. The album cover, it happened by accident because I knew I wanted something open and very like art gallery-esque. Like that's really what I want. I want something that can just live alone, that doesn't say much. I didn't want my face on it. I didn't want it to be overly, displayed of like trying to drive a theme or drive the narrative. I didn't want the words on it. That was something I struggled with a lot, was if I was going to put the words on it. But at first it was actually just gonna be the stars. Like I was just gonna take the guy off. I was just gonna do stars and again just have this open space. And I love the power circles that are around because it's so significant of, you know, life, you know, the subtripital motion of everything. But yeah, just like you said, I think once we made the conscious decision to like, hey, I think I need to be in the middle of it in a spacesuit, and you know, I think it just really needs to be contingent of how I feel, and which is it's just this one thing in the middle of this centripetal space, and these songs are going to be, I guess, just the supporting factor of what's happening while I'm in this space. You know, what's going through my head, what's happening with my heart, what am I looking at, what am I, you know, trying to discover, what am I searching for out here in this nothingness, you know, because essentially that's what all this is. This is all nothing. Like you just said, like none of this shit matters. That's one of the first, you know, things that one of the first sentences in the song Saturn is just nothing really matters, you know, and I just wanted that to kind of be that story to be told in the album cover. And I also didn't want it to be overthought, like just boom, this is what it is. I'm just in the middle of this nothingness, and the nothingness is very, very beautiful, but it's mysterious. And yeah, that's pretty much it.
Your album cover is brilliant because I think it can transcend genres in that way. I see some people's album covers and I love them as artists, but I couldn't show it to a stranger and say, I love this rapper and like, oh, like it's got this image on it. Like it says something about me, where your album is like, it's a mood, it's a vibe. Like when I first saw it, I was like, this is brilliant. And then hearing the songs, it connects perfectly. It flows really well. And it's something where you could put it on vinyl, you could have it out, and it would look beautiful independent of whether or not you know anything about you or the songs on it. It's a beautiful thing to want to display in your home. It's something you could put up on your wall and you'd be proud of, even if people don't have the detailed context, which is why I think it defies genres.
Yeah, agreed. Man, thank you so much for it.
Absolutely. So can we talk a little bit about the album? Can we talk about Awake, My Love? Like the beginning of the album it feels like something you would want to say to a child being born. It seems like that conversation, we talk about like people are born, but that moment where you really have consciousness, you really understand that you have opportunities, you have gifts, you have abilities, you have skills, and you have to share that with people. And that seems like the very starting place, which is not everybody gets that. Not everybody is encouraged to reach their full potential. And that seems like the starting place where the conversation comes from. How did that come about for you?
Damn, bro, you're good at this shit, because that's exactly it. Like, for real. That's exactly the space it was. It was an awakening. And it wasn't an awakening of anything other than my awareness, my consciousness, my ability to transcend fear. It was the knowing that we just talked about. That's what it was. It was that knowing is awake. That feeling awake. The purpose is awake. And it was sort of like this, you know, here's this cool older guy telling this younger, you know, soul, hey, like, this is what you should look out for, because I've already been there. You know, this is what you have inside of you, and you have no idea the things that you're about to face, but you know that I'm letting you know that you're prepared for it. And then, so it actually happened because I knew I wanted to find like some sort of very heavy tone voice like that. And this guy named Tim Tones, I reached out to, and I kind of pulled from the Interstellar movie. You know, there's some dialogue from the movie. I kind of wrote in some random stuff myself. And then I still pulled from Star Wars a little bit. Like, the guy kind of sounds like Palpatine. I thought the first thing when he said Anakin, I was like, that's crazy. That just satisfied the nerd in me. I love that because he sounded just like him. And he really just drove it home, man. And when I was writing it out, I just knew I wanted to land on that line. favorite line, which is the line that I wrote, was just find what you love and let it kill you. And I thought that that was all you needed to tell somebody, you know, kind of what we just talked about, the motivating factor of, you know, just being here for a short amount of time. But yeah, I think find what you love and let it kill you is just the place I wanted to land. And then him just telling you to do it with this, you know, very Interstellar-esque composition happening under it. I loved it, man. And that was probably, it couldn't have came out better than I thought it was going to come out. Like that's probably the first time something I planned on doing that came out exactly the way that I had planned it.
It gave me chills when I first heard it, because it was the perfect introduction, in my opinion, to the rest of the album. It was a clear walkthrough through that starting position of people waking up and realizing they have control over their life. And so many people don't feel that way. So many people stuck in this 9 to 5, it's not fulfilling them. And there's a sense of like, what more is out there? And I'm stuck. And I'm a pretty Big Sean fan. It's where the Bigger Than Me name comes from. And he has his album talks about in the beginning, it's an old man saying like, this is not what my life was meant to be. And at the end, it's him realizing he's capable of more. And it was very beautiful how you started that out. You have the song Starheart, which I think highlights a huge issue for artists, which is the balance between perfection and delivering the truth. And you can get so lost in making something perfect that it starts to lose the soul in which, like, the raw feelings that you have. There's this balance that you have to find. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, Starheart was, and everybody told me not to put that as an intro. So many people said, don't put it as an intro, because after I had that talking piece already, we wanted to, like, everybody thought the pacing was going to pick up. Everybody knows me for like, boom, just go. And I was so stuck on like, no, this has to be the first thing, because I did, again, like you just said, I didn't want it to be perfect. And that was the point, was like, I didn't want it to be perfect. I didn't want to start the way everybody else would think I would start. I wanted to start with, it took me some time, space and time. Like, from whatever music you've ever heard me do, all of that is done. This is who I am right now. And it took me some time. It took me space and time from everything, from myself, just to get here right now. And yeah, I literally just dove into that, like addressing, like, if you want to put me in a box, fine, but it's not going to work. And you're just going to keep dissatisfying yourself. If you want to put an expectation on me, fine. But again, you're just going to be disappointed. You're better off just turning this off now, because I'm going to go to so many different places, and they're all places that I want to go. You know, again, if I said something before like that, like, if what food for thought would this really be if everything on my plate was just catered to you? You know, like, I'm stripping myself, I'm depriving myself of, you know, why do it if I do that? I'm not a song, I'm a person, period. You know? So, yeah, Starheart was incredible in the way that I felt the pacing would go, like the being very dim toned, very kind of, you know, almost spoken word-esque, into this heavy, you know, downward spiral of like, oh shit, like I just jumped, you know, and I just jumped off the edge of the earth and I'm spiraling down. And while I'm getting lost in the space, just asking myself questions. I'm like, I want to know everything there is to know about all this shit, because I know that we may never know. So I want to ask now. So that way, if anybody has any insight, give it to me now, because I feel like I've spent so much time on this earth already just not knowing, you know, and now I just want to know. And that was like my leap of faith. Starheart is my leap of faith. The kind of underlying part of it too is Starheart was like me saying, I'm different. Like, Starheart was me saying, my heart is not like the rest of your guys' hearts. You know, I feel like, you know, you talk about, you know, astronomy, astrology, and you talk about, you know, humans are made up of stardust and things like that. And it's like me really honing in on like, yeah, I really think that heart is just a piece of a star. And, you know, when everybody else you meet on this earth might be the same. They might be carbon copies of each other. Everybody might be programmed. Everybody might be, fucking robots for all we know. Mine is not that way. And that was the first thing I wanted to get across, was just like, hey, my heart is just different. The flip side of that, which is kind of cool, is I really wanted to end close to the end of the album with Supernova, because that was like the broken heart aspect. Like Supernova is just a star that explodes. So I wanted to, I think the first part was, it was going to be Starheart, and then Supernova was going to be my outro. And that's how I wanted it. But then last minute, I decided I didn't want to end on a dim note. So then we had to do one more. But yeah.
I have to ask about Supernova. Is that you beatboxing in the background? Who is beatboxing in that song?
That's Bingx beatboxing in the background. He's just doing yeah.
I could hear it, and I was like, I wonder how that came about, and what the mindset was behind that song.
It was so random. It was just one of those things where it was like, he wasn't really, I hate almost every time he puts hi-hats on any beats that we make, they sound really insecure, and I hate them. And he's just like, and he always is making fun of me because, like, you hate all my hi-hats. I'm like, I just don't. I don't know why. Just give me more space to do something vocally. We don't need any hi-hats. And so when he was doing that song, instead of going back and putting hi-hats on it, he was just like, and I was just like, all right, just run it because I like it. Yeah. And he's like, oh, you like that and not the hi-hats? I'm like, yeah, I like that.
That's awesome. Can you tell us about the song We Need Space and that collaboration?
Man, We Need Space was crazy. Because We Need Space was actually, it came from, at least the concept came from me kind of in a weird space in my relationships where I felt like I was really disconnected from both of them. And he actually just got out of a breakup, and sorry, Bingx. But he had actually just got out of a breakup. And so I think we kind of met in the middle of like this feeling. And the first words that you hear in the song, I wrote down, and I was going to sing them. And then I was like, Bingx, this is too perfect. Again, we're creating in real time here. We should just do this one together. So then I had like the first few things written. I passed it off to him. I said, yo, finish the lyrics for this part, and that's your part. You sing that part. Let's just make this a feature for me and you. And he was like, perfect, let's do it. And then we did it. And then when my part came on, it was just, again, like, it was something that I didn't want to think too much about. It wasn't something that I wanted to even explain too much. It was like, let me just have this space of thought. That's it. If we need space, I feel like everything about it needed space. The production is spacey. And then it was just space of thought. It was just like, I thought about it, and you just barely touch on what I'm thinking about. And I thought that was perfect. And yeah, it came out really, really good. I think Bingx sounds absolutely incredible on it. And yeah, we were supposed to do, I think I actually had a third verse, but for the sake of the album pacing, I did that speaking part because I felt like the speaking part was way more impactful. Yeah. It was almost like a psychosis of like, she loves me not, and then being able to tell everybody like, hey, I feel really disconnected right now, and I just want you guys to know how I'm feeling. And going from that into the drift interlude with Oswin, I thought was just seamless. Yeah.
I couldn't agree more. And it again speaks to the idea of an album, that we look so much for the song that needs to hit somewhere, that needs to have these sounds. We forget to give insights into like the mindset and the process. And like my partner and I, Rebecca, we were walking last night and we were listening to that part. We were looking up at the stars. It was so peaceful. And we were so focused on songs hitting that we don't give the artist the space to share their thoughts or just let you kind of follow the journey. And I think that that's really where that comes about. And I don't know if you know this, but the Bible is one of the first hyperlinked books where things connect throughout. And so the way you name the songs, the way they all connect is again where I think people don't always understand the beauty of an album. We Need Space, the tie-in with the idea of the songs, the idea of the album, it all kind of comes together so beautifully, in my opinion.
Yeah, thank you so much, man. For real. It's kind of surreal that, people are even ingesting it that way. Because I always am so in my head about like dang, nobody's gonna get this, because I know my mind's wired like this. I don't know if everybody else is. So hearing it back is very, very fruitful for me. So thank you so much.
Of course. I'm a huge fan of Andrew Huberman, and he talks about neuroplasticity. And when you hear songs that are outside of your comfort zone, that's actually your brain going, this is outside of what I know. It's why people get stuck with, this is my all-time favorite album, and then they kind of fall off the music train because they've found what they like, it's familiar, and they just want it to repeat. But you grow from hearing and taking that journey with the person and giving them the respect and the time to kind of go on that journey. But I would be remiss if I didn't ask you about the song Healer, because it has been stuck in my head for so long. We need to talk about it. How did this song come about? What was the inspiration behind it?
That's Futuristic's favorite song, man. He would not shut up about that song.
I love it. I have all of the lines from the chorus just stuck in my head, walking around all day singing it.
Healer is like, Healer's like my, like, almost ego R&B version of being Polly. Like, it was like, how do I talk about being Polly, but like being Polly in a, almost prideful way, I heard Travis Scott's another big inspiration for me. I think it was the feature he did with Drake. And it was on the mixtape album that he did. Why am I blanking? If you're reading this, it's too late. And I think it was Company, the song Company. If you listen to the song Company, right before Travis Scott comes in, he says, I'm a dog. And I think he says, I'm a heed or something like that. And I loved how it sounded so much. And it's just like a weird background ad lib that he did. And so it wasn't like a big moment. So I was like, wow, that really stuck with me. So when we were making the song, actually another artist that I pull a lot of inspiration from is St. John. I love St. John's drums. His drums are so groovy and they're all filtered, and they have this, like, he might be the only person that I've ever said like their music is very sexy. Like, it's sexy music, dog. Like, the drums are just like, when you listen to Healer, those drums are sexy. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's some sexy ass drums. So when I'm listening to them, I'm like, they just sound like butter. I was pulling that inspiration from St. John. I had that little Travis Scott thing in my head, and then we just started going. And yeah, it was kind of like this conversation I was having. It reminded me of a date that I went on. And again, like the first conversations that I've had on many dates have been like, I'm not a monogamous being, I'm polyamorous. And I want you to open the floor to let you know who I am about it. Like, I don't want to lie about it. I don't want, it to be like a surprise. Like, this is who I am. And I'm willing to, I'm here. If you want to get to know me, like, I'm right here. You could ask me anything, because a lot of people still don't know about it. A lot of people still are confused as to what it is, or everybody has this narrative about what it is. And I think Healer is definitely one of those things where I wanted to start talking about it, but I wanted to talk about it in a way where I'm giving you also my belief system and giving you the reality and what happens when I fall in love. When I fall in love with somebody, and the people that I have fallen in love with, I've taken on everything about them. Like, I really have taken on, their mental health struggles. I've taken on their family struggles. I've taken on, their growing pains and things like that. So it's one of those songs where I'm just like, man, like, I have the capacity to love you, and I have the capacity to help. And I really want this love to be a healing energy for me and you, because that's what love should be. That's how we heal, is we love each other. So yeah, I think that was the space that Healer was created from, man. I just wanted, I wanted it to be this prideful way of me talking about this space of myself that I'm ultimately insecure about. But, here's a way to kind of just be fun and, say it with some pride that time. But yeah, Healer, I love Healer so much.
Amazing. So I have a few more questions. And again, I appreciate your time so much. One of them is around the song Shooting Stars, because I think you point to something that's really important for people to understand. When you bet on yourself, when you start pursuing your goals, when you start chasing your dreams, that goalpost moves. And your comments about having like a fear of missing out and your goals just keep moving forward, it's something I think all people who are passionate about what they're doing get stuck in, which is by the time your album releases, by the time you hit your pinnacle, your mind is already, what's next? Where am I going? Where do I have to go from here? And so I'm just interested, can you reflect on your album's released a few days ago? You should be hopefully soaking this in, but where is your mindset at? And can you talk a little bit about how that connects to your song Shooting Stars?
Oh yeah. That little piece was so pivotal. Because it's very, very true, man. Like we deal with that shit all the time. We talk about it all the time. I feel like us as artists, we're always so focused on our output, like everything is output. And we get so lost in it that we forget about our input. We forget about celebrating those small wins. We forget about allowing any little piece of gratification to come inside, because, you know, it's calculated motives now. It's like, this is just something we need to do, and we need to let go of it, and then we need to do something else and go again and go again. So when I look around me, bro, my friends are millionaires. You know, like my friends are successful. My friends have their own houses. My friends have, you know, so much success in terms of what I'm viewing success as, that I start to get lost in it. And I feel like another favorite part of that song is I said, how am I doing? You know, how am I doing? How am I doing
enough if you're doing too much?
Yeah. And it's like, I feel like that all the time, bro. Like I always feel like I'm doing so much, and yet I'm still not doing enough, and I'm exhausted, you know, all the time. But I think it's so important for us to really sit back and take these wins in, and like a deep breath, and hold it in for a bit, and meditate on them. Because the other night with the release party, that was the first time that I've really, like, to the point where like I still haven't even really been able to talk about it much. Like it was so surreal for me. There was so much love in that room, which was ironic as hell because of the album's, you know, mantra and meaning. But there was just so much love in the room for everybody, for me, for the space, for the music, so much love. And that was probably the first time in a very, very, very long time that I've felt peaceful mentally, you know. Even the couple days leading up, or the couple days after, like, I'm still sitting here like, man, like I'm soaking it in. I go back, I've been looking at footage, I've been talking to so many people, having so many conversations about songs and meanings and what it means to them. And it's just beautiful, man. It feels like what me and Futuristic used to talk about all the time, which is just, you know, I want to take on the same responsibility of the music that I love. And that's what's happening. And it doesn't matter if it's happening only in small numbers right now, or it's happening in the millions. Like, the point is that it's happening. And that's exactly what we wanted, you know? So that's a little surreal for me, man. But yeah, Shooting Star, again, another one like Drift, where a lot of people around me didn't know if that should make the album. But again, it was something that I fought for. It was that space of thought. That space of thought is something that I'm always going to fight for, which is, no, everything that I said in that song, I really wanted to say, and I need people to hear it. And then once Mike hopped on it and he sang over it, I was like, oh yeah, this done deal. It's staying. I don't care what anybody says. It's staying. Because it meant so much to me, for sure.
The whole album is incredibly beautiful, and again, connects so elegantly. I would be remiss if I didn't ask, because it's one of the ways I discovered you, the song Sedona. One of my favorite parts about that song is where you pass the beat back and forth like a ball. Like, the way you guys both move back and forth, it I think that's where I get the most chills when I listen to a song, because the tempo has to be right. Your vocal cords have to be right. If it's too different, people are going to notice and it's not going to feel right. But the way you two bounced the end of that song back and forth just blew my mind. And I get lost on that part every time. Can you tell us about that song?
Sedona happened by, again, another happy accident, man. Like, me and Vin have been friends for a while now. Again, I shoot a lot of his music videos. I've been shooting all of his music videos for the past couple of years. And he's always said incredible things about my music. And we've had so many conversations about doing music together. And he was actually supposed to be on The Sky Knows My Name. He was supposed to do the second verse because I did not want to do the second verse whatsoever. Vin's also like me. Vin is somebody that creates in real time, and he's very, he's a feeler. And if something doesn't reach him the way he wants it to instantly, he will start to overthink and self-combust a little creatively. And so he was so hyped. We loved Sky Knows My Name. We loved the beat. I had the first verse done. I sent it to him, and he hit me back. He was like, bro, I'm not finding anything. And it's like, I'm so sorry, you know? And literally at the release party the other day, he looked at me and he said, I'm so happy I didn't do the second verse. Because I did not want to do that second verse. You could add, bro, Bingx, the whole time we were done with the album was done, but that verse was not done. And Bingx, I'm like wiping my hands of it. I took a drink of some champagne. I sat down on my couch, and Bingx was like, you have to get up there and go through your second verse. I was like, bro, no, like, I'm not going to do it. No way. He was like, gave me this whole spiel, the same type of spiel that I would give somebody. And I was like, you know what? Fuck it. And I went upstairs and I knocked it out and I did it. And yeah, it's one of my favorite verses because it establishes that hunger. But that's the type of shit, even though in a different way, that's the type of shit that Vin brings out of me. So when he called me and he was super excited, he was just like, yo, like, I got this crazy beat. I think me and you should go back and forth on it. I think it would be crazy. And I said, all right, bet. He was like, I'm gonna send it to you. I said, no, don't send it to me. I'm coming over. So I was like, I'll just pull up. So I went to his crib, walked in, we had like 2 beers and we went straight to the studio. And he already had all his parts done. And I was like, okay, do we want to hook? Do we not want to hook? Or like, what do we want? He was like, whatever, you do you. He just let me go. He let me do whatever I wanted to do. So I just got on the mic. I started scatting, started finding some stuff. I actually found kind of that little hook piece before anything else, before I even did the verse. I think the first thing was that was the first thing I scattered on the mic. And then once he liked it, we were like, okay, cool. We put some lyrics to it. We kind of wrote the hook back and forth together. And then he was just like, yeah, just do whatever you want. I sat there, and I'm not going to try to, go bar for bar with Vin. I was like, that's not what I'm going to do. I'm going to be myself. And he was like, yeah, just do you. And I was like, perfect. I did the verse in like 15 minutes and we couldn't stop listening to it. It was just over and over and over again. And we knew it was something. We just didn't know it was going to go as crazy as it did. Yeah. But we knew it was something. Like, even if it was just going to like, do good on social media or something, like somebody was going to like it because we loved it. It was like somebody's going to like it. And then, yeah, I remember randomly he FaceTimed me and just like, yo, we just hit 1 million streams. And I was like, oh shit, like that's crazy. And then, yeah, we, did the music video. That was fun. But yeah, Sedona was super fun, man. And it was cool to finally do it after all the conversations that we had. We probably had conversations for the course of 2 years before even doing one song together, one verse together. So yeah, it was really, really fun. And it definitely will not be the last song that me and Vin Jay do. We're definitely going to do a bunch more.
Thank goodness, because I feel like you two brought out the best in each other. I feel like he was like more flowy, like it felt more smooth. Like he's a brilliant lyricist, and so you brought out like a little bit more singing to me, and you were more of a lyricist than I think like what your album is now. Like you guys brought out really cool parts of each other, and I really enjoyed it. So I'm glad to hear that it won't be the last one.
Yeah, absolutely.
you've created a fantastic community of people as a consequence of knowing all these people, helping them succeed and building up, I think, a really strong network, a really strong sense of community and people that you can rely on. What advice do you have for people who are on this journey of trying to chase their dream, chase their goals? I just think you're really unique because you're connected to so many other rappers. You're connected to other artists in a way some people aren't. They're siloed and they're trying to figure this thing out by themselves. What advice do you have for those individuals who are on this journey? Because it doesn't seem like you do it alone.
Man, be yourself above all. Like, don't compare. Don't pay too much attention to what other people have. Be yourself. Protect yourself from bitterness. Protect yourself from the ego that can phase in and out. Protect yourself from spite. Protect yourself from all of it. Protect yourself from negative energy. If you have negative energy around you, get rid of it. I don't care who it is. Get rid of it. Set your boundaries with your loved ones. Set your boundaries for yourself. And yeah, man, just stay true to yourself. Again, and I can't express it enough. If you feel something, and I mean really feel something, and you have that sense of knowing, you have to do it. You just have to. Please do it, because this world was built on that. You know, I feel like this entire world was built on somebody just knowing, believing in themselves, and just executing what they believe. Just do that shit, man, for real. Other than that, like, love through and through. Show love. I think that the reason I have the people that I have around me is just because I've always shown up for them. I've always been there for them in every which way they needed, whether it was work, whether it was conversations, whether it was parties, whether it was hard times, whether it was sickness. You know what I'm saying? Like, I've really been there, you know, and I don't really, again, like, I don't have much to show for it. That's tangible, but what I do have to show for it is these incredible relationships and incredible spaces of love that I have surrounding me. So yeah, I would just say through and through, man, be yourself, stay true to you, stay true to your heart, and move with love, for real. And if you're gonna do something, do it out of love. And I really mean it. That's my favorite line. Find something you love, let it kill you.
Beautiful. How can people connect with you on Instagrams, Spotify?
Everything at Anickan, Anickan. Again, I come with a lot of peace, love, and light. Hit me up anytime. Interstellar Love Story out now. Thank you guys so much for streaming that have already. I have so much more coming, so much more that I'm doing. Gonna be definitely some more visuals for the album. I have a whole list of singles lined up, and I already have another project that's like halfway done. So let's go.
I'm so excited. Thank you again for doing this. Interstellar Love Story out now. Go stream it. Go check it out. It's fantastic. I couldn't say enough good things about it. Thank you again for being willing to take the time to share your story and share the journey of this. It's been an absolute pleasure and absolutely lived up to the hype.
Well, thank you, brother. And thank you, you know what I'm saying, for doing this and shedding light on the people that you believe in, man. It's very commendable, and it's an honor for me as well to be here. So thank you.